Hi, I'm Peter Prevost, and in this video I'm going to talk about the first phase of the Emacs Writing Studio workflow, which is inspiration. As authors, we all stand on the shoulders of giants, to use the cliche. So to get inspiration, we need to read the works of others. We might want to read a website, we want to listen to some music or listen to a podcast or watch a video. I'm going to show you how to do each of those activities with Emacs Writing Studio. But let's stop talking and start doing. So let's start by opening the Emacs Writing Studio book to give you a feel of what the end result looks like, and then I'm going to show you how to configure Emacs Writing Studio to achieve that same result. So I want to start by opening Sitar, which is a package for bibliography management. And you see here that I have 1935 references in my system. And my own book happens to be at top because I just opened it up. But I can search in here, for example, for Emacs, or I can search for mathematics, and all these mathematics bits come up, and apparently we've got a double entry there. So this is a very powerful tool to search through your literature. The 3 columns at the start here means that this file either has a link, it has a file attached to it, or a note attached to it. But all that will be explained later on in a bit more detail. Now let's open this entry here, which is Emacs Writing Studio. Now you see here that first we have the library files. So each entry in your bibliography can have more than 1 or more files, or no files. We can add some links to it, so to jump to relevant websites, and we can also create notes for 1 or more notes for each file, but more about that in a separate video. Let's open this ePub file, which is the Emacs Writing Studio book. So this is a ePub file, and this is how Emacs displays the file. Now let's go back to the start of the chapter, because there's a few things I'd like to explain. Emacs is a text processing software that uses plain text. Now it's also capable of showing images. Now there's a package within Emacs called DjVu that uses a few little tricks and external software to then also display other formats. So Emacs working together with GhostScript or MuPDF to show PDF files. There's also Poppler, which has a package to convert PDF to plain text, which makes searching a bit easier. If you have LibreOffice installed, then you can also open Office files, whether they be MS Office or LibreOffice or other Office products. DjVuLibre is a package to open ebooks in a DjVu format, which is not that common, but it still floats around the place. And you'll need the unzip executable, so the unzip program to read ePub files, because that's how they are compressed. Now I've got all that in a little image up here, so let's move that to the top. So this is how it works. If you open an ePub file on Emacs, Emacs will then call the unzip package and convert that to plain text, and in other words, it becomes a little website that's displayed within the Emacs frame. If you open a PDF file, it will either use pdftotext to turn that into plain text, and then you can read it, or GhostScript/mutool, either one of those, and then display an image. If you have a DjVu file, it uses DjVuLibre, turn it into an image. For Office files, there's another step involved. So if you open an Office file, like say somebody sends you an MS Word document, you hit enter, Emacs then calls the LibreOffice package, LibreOffice then converts that to PDF, and then Emacs can then work with the PDF as per usual and display it. So this is the system of how Emacs leverages external packages to then bring information into its buffers. So you need to install these packages. Now Emacs Writing Studio has a function that checks whether all your software is available. And when you start up your system, you might see a warning at the bottom of the screen that says that there is a missing package. If you want to go back to those messages, you type Control-H and then E, and then you go to your messages buffer. In my case, I don't have any missing software, so there's no message here. But it could say missing software, and then it gives you a list of what's needed. Now let's open a PDF file. So I'll go Ctrl-X, Ctrl-F. I'm already in the right library file, but let's go to the computing section. So here's a bunch of PDF files about computer science, and down here we have a paper from 1981, so 44 years ago, by Richard Stallman, where he talks about Emacs. Hitting enter, now this whole process happens, it's turned into images, and I can now use the page down key or the arrow keys to read it. I think capital W increases it to the width of the screen, so it makes reading a bit easier. This PDF view built into Emacs is pretty straightforward. There's not a whole lot of things you can do. There are other Emacs packages such as pdftotext that you could use, but it depends a bit on the operating system you use, so therefore I've chosen not to include it in Emacs Writing Studio. There's a few things you can do with DocView. If you press the question mark, a help buffer will pop up, and then you can read it at your own leisure to see all the different things you can do within DocView. Now, for the sitar menu to work, so the little pop-up menu you saw earlier, we need to do some configuration. First of all, you see here, if I go into my home PDF documents library folder, I have all these subdirectories with PDF files and other ebooks. And then here are some bibliography files. So let's go to the Lucid Manager one. And I'm not going to explain all the details, but these are the principles of a bibtag file. Bibtag is part of LaTeX, but we can also leverage it here within Emacs. In this case, this is a technical report. Then we have a citation key, which is 9001-2015 qual, which is, as the word says, for citations. We'll talk about that in a later chapter. Then we can define an author, a title, a key, and so on. So this is a little database of all the literature that I'm working with. You see here at the bottom, there is a file. That file is a relative position. So within the literature folder, and in the management directory of that folder, there's a file called ISO 9000 PDF. That's the file we look at. Now you'll need to define the location of your bibliography. And to do that, you type Alt-X, customize variable, and then you select the customize variable command, hit enter. And the one that we want to customize is EWS bibtex directory, which is already on top here. Hit enter, and then there's the customization menu. Let's just, for the hell of it, change that now as a part of the demonstration. Now I click apply and save, and now this will be set also next time I open Emacs, because it's saved in the custom.el file. So we can close this now. So I'll now set my bibliography file. How do I create new entries? Well, we can go to the bottom of the file and then CB. So Control-C, Control-B will open the bibtag entry command. And now, for example, I can enter a book and the author, and then we can define an author, last, comma, first name. That's the preferred way of typing it in. You can type an editor, a title. The fields where it says OPT are optional. Where it says alt, it's an alternative. So you either add the author and or the editor, and so on. So I need to type something in here. Once upon a time, the publisher is nobody, and the year, this book hasn't been written yet. And then Control-C, Control-C. Now bibtag will create a citation key, which you can change. Or you just pick the one, hit enter, and here we go. If you want to clean it up, Control-C, Control-Q, and now it all looks pretty. So this book is now part of my bibliography. So if I save this, and I do sitar open, CW, Control-C, WBO, and I look for nobody. Oh, I can't search on publisher, I think, or once upon there it is. Once Upon a Time by author name last, written in 2029. There's the book. If I now hit enter, there's no options because I've got no files and no etc. defined. So this is the way to get a simple entry into a BibTeX file. EWS also makes use of a package called Biblio, and I've written a convenience function on top of Biblio. So that's EWS Biblio lookup. Then it asks me the backend, so there's different databases we can use. So let's use just the archivix. Again, let's search for Emacs. So now the system will search for Emacs within archive. How do you pronounce this? Okay, there we go. And now here we have a list of all the different papers. And if I now hit enter, so I find this one interesting. So I for insert. Okay, there we go. And you see here that the BibTeX entry is now available. Q to close this. And now also this paper becomes part of my bibliography. But let's clean this up because that's not. So that's the principle of using a BibTeX file. Now for CITA to find your BibTeX files, you need to run a little function because there are several configurations to be set, and I made it easy with an EWS with the EWS register, BibTeX register function. If I now hit enter, it will search for all the bibliography files in your bibliography directory and register them with CITA and with the org mode citations. You only have to run this EWS BibTeX register function when you add a bibliography file to your directory. So you don't have to do this every time you add an entry. Every time you add a new entry or you added something in your BibTeX files, CITA will automatically pick that up. Now another thing I forgot to mention, the EWS Biblio lookup has a whole bunch of databases. So we search in the archive, but there's also Crossref, there's other databases. We can also enter a DOI number, and there's a few more databases that will make sense to those people who search regularly in those systems. So with all these tools, Emacs provides you a full tool set to manage your bibliographies, access your files, and any links that are associated with this. You don't have to use Emacs. You can also use other software such as Zotero, for example, because Zotero has the capability of exporting collections to BibTeX, and then you can use those in Emacs with the CITA, and the file names that are stored within Zotero automatically are picked up, so you can also open attachments and so on. So this is the part of reading ebooks and managing a bibliography. The next thing you can do with Emacs is also read web pages. Now, if you open a link, now let's look for a bibliography entity that has a link. So if I type in CITA :L, it will only show me the ones with links. If I type :F, it will show me only the ones that have files, and :N will only show me the ones with notes, but I don't have the notes defined yet. So links. So these are all the entries with links. If I now, for example, click on this file here, there's a hyperlink, which is a DOI file. If I click on this, Emacs will open the standard browser within your operating system, and then you can read the file. But Emacs can also open files, browse the web natively with a package called the Emacs web browser, called U. And it's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek name. Don't know exactly why it's called EU, but perhaps because it doesn't look as nice as a normal website, but there's some huge advantages. So Alt-X EWW, the Emacs web browser, hit enter, and now, for example, I can search on Wikipedia by just typing Wikipedia Emacs. Now it uses DuckDuckGo as a default search engine, and I can go here to the Wikipedia entry, and you see that the website is all served in plain text. And just using the arrow keys, etc., I can go through this. One of my favorite functions is the capital R, which removes any of the sort of extraneous information, navigation information, and goes straight to the article. So it's a very good way of reading simple websites. It is also very secure because there's no JavaScript, etc. But there's a lot of web functionality that you can't use with an Emacs, but it's perfect for reading simple web pages. You can also use Emacs to read RSS fields, so real simple syndication. And an RSS file is a way to summarize the content of a website to then for an RSS reader to help you subscribe to any new editions. Now, RSS used to be very common, and most websites provided links to RSS. Now those are a little bit hidden, but the technology certainly still exists. And in the Emacs Writing Studio book, it tells you how to find RSS files. But there is a package within Emacs called lfeed, and that's a wonderful way to subscribe to various websites. Now, to do that, we need to configure a variable. And so that's Alt-X customize variable, and we need a variable that belongs to the lfeed package. So I'll just type lfeed, and then I can search here for the one that I want, and it has the interesting name rmh lfeed org files. That's what it's called. And now we need to set that directory. So it's now set at home.lfeed.org. That's the default. We need to set it to your org file that contains a feed, and I'll show you that file in a minute. I've got this set to Emacs Writing Studio documents lfeed.org. That's an example file that's available on the GitHub repository. Again, apply and save, and now that's available the next time you start up Emacs. Running the lfeed command, which is Ctrl+C-W-E, we see nothing. That is because we need to first tell Emacs to read this org file, read all the subscriptions, and show us the file. So that's lfeed update. So lfeed update, and now reads the database, and here are all the different articles that are available in the subscriptions that I set in the default. So, for example, this is for Emacs Reddit. I can hit enter, and I get a summary and a hyperlink to the relevant page. Whether you see the whole page or a summary depends on how the RSS feed is defined. So there's lots of functionality to manage and to search through these subscriptions. Now, to show you a quick view of the lfeed subscription file, I've got this stored in documents, lfeed.org. So it's just an alt mode file. And what you need to do is start a header, call it whatever you like, but it needs to have this lfeed tag. So you see, this is an alt mode tag. So each header can have a tag, which is a word that's contained by colon signs. The way to add a tag is just to stand on the header, and then Ctrl+C, Ctrl+C, and we can then add lfeed, for example, here as well. Any tag is automatically trickles down the hierarchy because the feeds, which is the level 1 header, already has lfeed. All the headers have lfeed. And then it's just a matter of adding the URLs of the RSS feeds. So that's my Lucid Manager website for Emacs articles. Then there is Reddit. You can also use RSS there. You can also use RSS for YouTube feeds. Some websites have RSS feeds, and so on. And this file, you can then add different subscriptions to your liking, update the database, and here is then a little menu that shows you exactly what you have read and haven't read yet. So these are the two ways of surfing the web and reading web pages on the internet. There's the EU web browser. You can use the default browser of your operating system, or you can subscribe to websites that have RSS feeds. The last thing I want to show you is to listen to or watch multimedia files. And there's a package called EMMS, which is the Emacs Multimedia System. Now, it requires only a little bit of configuration. You only have to do something once. So to set up our little jukebox, we type EMMS, so Alt-X, and then EMMS, add a directory tree. So that's a function. All my music files are here. That function will now search through this, all the whole tree of directories within the music folder, and then store that in a database. It can also look at cover files, etc. So when I hit enter, this will take quite a while because I've got a large collection. So we'll 7,200 tracks to go. So I'll speed up this video a little bit, and then I'll get back to you in a sec. So now EMMS has finished cataloging my collection, and there are various ways of now entering your collection. So Alt-X, EMMS, and then there's different browsers. So here, browse by album, by artist, composer, and so on. Let's look at by browser. So you get a bit of an insight in my diverse music taste. And for example, we can play some Bach, Kunst der Fuge, one of my favorites. The tab key will open and close the albums to see the individual songs. We can also use Ctrl+S to search for, let's search for Beethoven. So there's Symphony No. 9. To add this to the playlist, press Ctrl+J. Now you won't be hearing any music because I switched it off because I don't want to create any copyright strikes from YouTube. So this was the inspiration phase of Emacs Writing Studio. So I've shown you how to read ebooks in Emacs Writing Studio, how to manage a bibliography, and to access all your ebooks. You can also browse the web, set up subscriptions to websites, and even play multimedia files, all within the comfort from your Emacs setup. Now this video is only just a demonstration. It's not a detailed instructions. The Emacs Writing Studio website contains more information. Then there's also, of course, the Emacs Writing Studio book if you want to support my work. And Emacs itself also have extensive documentation. The next video will be about the ideation phase. So this is when all these ideas that we've been collecting by reading, by listening and watching, and now we want to write those down and take notes and create our own little personal knowledge management system. So that's what the next video is about, and I hope to see you there.